today with the technical aspects. But here we are again talking about co-regulation, following on the article 2016, and looks at sociocultural theory of how um, you have the idea of regulation and co-regulation, and that's affected by your society and your culture and environment, right? So, according to Hickey 2003, and it's a construct that goes back to even the 70s with Vygotsky, they developed, you know, ideas on learning, and they talked about internalization and transformation of knowledge, right? Welcome back, Mark. Um, we're looking at how correlation started to be conceptualized, and Vygotsky introduced the concept that would subsequently be fundamental for this theory, which is called zone of proximal development, right? So what's
Mm.
around you, proximal is close, and what's that area of development, right?
Mm.
And you can identify what the novice can do, or someone that's learning,
Mm.
and what they can do today and tomorrow independently. And if there's two novice learners, how is that affected? If there's a novice and an expert, if there's two experts, and how close to the social interaction should be for the learning, the cognition. And then we also know that um, regulation also talks about emotion, right? So how do you regulate your emotion? And some very simple things. Sometimes it's just about the speed of your voice, the tone or the pitch of your voice. Have you noticed people like in group meetings at work? Sometimes there's someone that's too agitated and speaking too fast or too loud, and someone calms the group by talking slower, just 10-15% slower, and
Mm.
regulate the group, right?
Yeah, people usually tend to reflect because of mirror neurons, right? Which are wired essentially to reflect the physiological state of the people around us. I had a question for you, which was, how do you think technology affects or influences co-regulation? Because obviously, this theory relates a lot to people who are in your direct proximity. But we're talking online over a internet connection right now. You're in thousands of miles away in a different country. I'm across the ocean. Does this theory apply to the way that we communicate or other people communicate at all en masse across the internet with each other at all?
It,
Does it have any influence?
it does, and so we talk about the inter-psychological plane, the last line here,
Mm.
and we are still interacting in an interpersonal way. We might not have the full body cue. We might not have the odors. I don't know if you took a shower today, Mark. I can't tell, but I can see your eyes, right? I hope
I
you
did
did
actually.
for your loved ones, and people around. But more seriously, like we can still see your eyes. We can still laugh, right? Hear the tone. So that's still co-regulation, and it works. Now, when it's more difficult is if we're just texting or sending emails, then you might misconstrue an email or get angry because you don't see the tone, you don't see the smirk, the laugh, the sarcasm, right? So
Mm.
that's why video conferencing is always the best way, besides being face to face in the same room. And also, we can consider this. We're talking about meta and social media, right? So
Mhm.
when you watch social media, you're also going to co-regulate from what you see. If you're watching a short or a long form
Yeah.
or a podcast, you might hear the voice, and you might co-regulate your mind and your emotion and your body based on that. And that's one of the beautiful things, because that's why we're doing our digital resets. We can help people co-regulate with our content, right? If we do it right. But if you're doing a content that's abrasive, aggressive, that makes people angry, that also is going to make
Yeah.
them contagiously angry and unhappy.
I have to say, like, I just think this is extremely important in the realm of like children and kids, right? Who oftentimes when a kid's crying, like one of the best examples of co-regulation is if a infant is crying and the mother comes and caresses the child, holds them, and then they calm down, and the nervous system is essentially relaxing there. Um, I wonder what a simulacrum like digital media, what sort of effect that has on a child who may be crying, and then you give the kid an iPad, and tell it to look at a screen. Like I told this story before on the podcast, but being on vacation at a resort, and I saw this woman, kid was crying. Instead of giving a pacifier, I gave it like an iPhone to look at TikTok, right? Is that a co-regulation strategy, or is it a maladaptive adaptation to digital
Well,
media?
it is a strategy, but as you mentioned, it's maladaptive. It's marginally useful. It can be useful in the moment, right?
Short term, right?
Maybe the kid does calm down, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
is it for the right reason, and is it long lasting? Right? Maybe they calm down in the moment, but then it's more difficult to calm down in the future because they need that.
But it's different.
That
It's different too, right? It's different because they're not actually interacting with anybody. They're just, most of the time they're consuming a video, digital media of somebody on a screen doing something performative. It's a piece of content that they're consuming. So it's not like they're actually interacting with somebody. Like you say something, I think, I ask a question, you answer back, like we're interacting with each other. Or a mother who caresses their child, right? When they're crying, they're attending to its needs. But these kids, they're crying, they're not actually interacting with this content creator. They're just watching a video of somebody, online doing something. So it's almost like it's not really a form of co-regulation in a certain sense.
Well, it is a form of co-regulation, but it's not the best way to do it, right? So
Okay.
I would say that all regulation is co-regulation, but are you regulating peace, calm, happiness, focus, attention, or are you regulating something that is perhaps in the less useful or maladaptive spectrum, right? So you're regulating, but you might regulate someone to be dysregulated as your nervous system, right? And so that's the spectrum of interpersonal regulation, right? And to talk back about your example of consuming, I was writing last night about we're creating resources for parents, and we already have some, but we're always creating more stuff. And I was writing specifically about trying to teach your family to create with technology instead of consume, right? So if you're creating and you have this curiosity, and you're trying to help your family create something with technology, then that's great. If you're just consuming and consuming, then you're going to lose some cognition, lose some creativity, and that affects your family, your community, your school if you're in the education system, and your work as well if you're in an organization.
And I think when we say create, we don't mean the creepy type of family vloggers who like document every minute of the day and look what we're having for breakfast. Oh my God, look at Timmy, he's growing up. Like that's not a very healthy type of content creation, people. Not to, gripe on those family vloggers, but there's a healthy type of family interaction and creation rather than consumption.
And creation doesn't have to be shared, right? We have this idea that we have to share, but you can do something.
Yes.
For your
Social
family.
media has trained us to do that, essentially, to document, to share our lives with everybody else in the world, right? So you can
now people know that you took a shower today, right? Now.
Exactly. I'll upload the video later. But I think there's an important distinction here, and which is, just because you create something doesn't mean you need to share it publicly. You can share it with a close group of friends, right?
And in fact, neurologically, what's important is the creative process, right? It's not the output. And in terms of happiness or well-being, it's also not the output, the achievement, or it's just the fact of doing, of being, that's important. And that's what we try to impart and help people with also in our digital reset, is to make them feel happy now for no other reason that they're happy, they're here, they're now.
I just had like a little story come to mind. I was like at the grocery store today with my girlfriend, and I was bagging the groceries, and I know she wasn't helping, and she was just on her phone. She's staring at her phone, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, help me bag the groceries." And she's like, "Oh, it's important. I'm talking to a patient." I'm like, "Okay, that can wait though. Like when you're with me, don't use your phone. Just don't do that." And I think if you're with people. And I think Diary of a CEO just had a guy on who talked about this as well. It's like the effect that that has on the other person. If you go to dinner with somebody and they just take out their phone and they start texting and they're like, yeah, I'm listening, right? No, you just go on. Like, it has a visible effect on you as the person who's speaking to them, because you can tell that there's not really a connection going on
Yeah.
with that person. And so that not only, is somebody trying to multitask and look at their message and trying to listen at the same time, which doesn't essentially work, but the person doesn't feel like they're being listened to any longer. And that can negatively affect the relationship for sure.
Well, yeah, at the relationship level, might it be at home or corporate, active listening is very important. We've talked about it with training. We've been trained. We're training people about aspects of active learning. We talked about it in other podcasts, and we also talked about phubbing, right? Phubbing, which is snubbing someone with your phone, and that's what was happening in your relationship today, and it's happening in millions of relationships today.
Not just relationships, friendships as well. Like just going to dinner with friends and they just take out their phone and they're on Snapchat. It's like, that's super disrespectful, right? And it makes me feel like I'm less valued as a friend. Mm-hmm. Or, your attention span is just so short that you just can't spend a minute waiting for your food after you've ordered it, and you have to go on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter to check what is actually happening in the world, right? It's like, come on, this is an opportunity for you to spend time with someone who's close to you and to enjoy that presence. That's super important. We don't have enough of those moments anymore.
And thanks for sharing the stories and this insight, Mark. We do think that presence is key to not only productivity, but to happiness, well-being, real human connections. Be present with your loved one, and even with your enemies. Just be there. Take whatever.
It's hard. It's difficult to be present with the enemies, but that actually can be a really big learning point for a lot of people. Yeah.
And often, the ego is the enemy. Ryan Holiday wrote a book called "The Ego is the Enemy," and we talked about self-regulation, co-regulation. Self-regulation helps. Co-regulation helps us self-regulate, because often how we regulate is with our ego, with our aversions. Oh, I don't want this. I really don't want to do this. Well, okay, well, maybe you need help because you need to do that, right? I don't care if you want to. You need to, and you know that you need to, right? And it could be something also like addictions and desire. Well, I really want to be on TikTok right now.
I really want it. Yeah. I really.
And
so, just a quick question. So part of the title of this podcast, it's co-regulation, focus that spreads. How does co-regulation actually influence focus and concentration?
If you're able to be in a room with someone who's not focused on their phone, but focused on writing a piece of music, on researching, on creating, on doing whatever task that they're doing, it could be manual tasks, intellectual tasks. But once you have the focus and you can reach different levels of flow, that's also contagious. That helps correlate when you when a group, and again, the Olympics are on. What happens when a team is focused? Everyone in the team steps up, right? You have a captain, you have a leader that shows that, hey, this is how we're going to attend and be present in the moment. Then the rest kind of get influenced by that, right?
So focus is essentially a feedback loop, and it's contagious and spreads just like, panic spreads, but so does deep work. And so if you are in a room with other people who are engaged in deep work, like at a library, obviously the focus is better. People just assume, I want to go to the library to focus better. There are actually tools out there, and we have mentioned this on the podcast various times, for people who are remote digital nomads who spend most of the day working alone in front of the computer. Essentially, because you're alone, you don't have that opportunity for that focused feedback loop. So you can either, call a friend, be like, hey, let's get on a Zoom call. We can work for a few hours in front of the camera. There is a website called focus.me, which I always promote on here, which is like an awesome website. It's like chat roulette, but with random people in the world that you can work together with without some of the inappropriate things that people do on chat roulette. But they get on there and they have the intention of working silently to enforce that focus feedback loop that we just alluded to, right? the act of seeing somebody on the camera, like on your screen in front of you, just like working, even if they're not saying anything to you, it kind of reinforces the notion that like, oh, like I need to be working as well, right? Even though they're not like peering over your shoulder, like, Christian, what are you doing? Christian, what are you working on? Like they're not doing that. But like the brain, essentially, because of the mirror neurons, can't distinguish that between somebody actually working alongside you. So even though you're on the other side of the ocean, if we were to have like an hour-long Zoom call where we're just working together, it would essentially replicate that at the neurobiological level, right? Fool myself into thinking that I'm actually in a room with you working together. So that's a really good hack for a lot of people who are listening to this, who perhaps have some productivity issues, working alone all day. Just phone a friend or find somebody that you know, uh, even if they're not in the same city, and just ask them to get on a call with you and just like start working together with them.
Thanks for sharing that experience. And yes, we're not sponsored by Focus ME, but we're trying to give as much good tools to people, independent on uh, who's getting some clients or not. It's just who can be making the world better and impacting in a positive way.
Yeah.
I can share a positive story that is, goes beyond that. This is my third startup, so I've been an entrepreneur for 13 or 14 years now. And before that, I was in sales, so working remotely for a long time. I won't say how long. But
Mhm.
I had a good friend of mine, Stacy, who's also an entrepreneur. And for over a year, we would meet almost every week and sometimes twice a week just to work together. So we would
That's
go
awesome.
at the McGill Library, or we would go at a coffee shop, or we'd go anywhere, sometimes even at home, but just working with someone else that's, same type of work. We were both entrepreneurs. We still are. And yeah, just to kind of give like, hey, let's work on your stuff. Hey, how's it going? Make a joke. But we can create those tools even in a more hybrid and remote work environment,
Mhm.
physically or virtually. And there's even more tools, and we can talk more. And we talk to HR leaders and see what they're facing, and the absenteeism and the no motivation, no work. Where's Dan in this room? We don't know. Where's Stacy or whoever? And
Right.
oh, they didn't show up in the meeting. We don't know what they're doing. They're not motivated.
Right.
Um, as a company, as an organization, it is an environment not to spy on what they're doing. Is to give them the environment so that they can have this motivation, purpose, meaning, and co-regulation to achieve together. Right?
I think there's definitely something to that, and there's a reason that a lot of people do prefer working in the office. But if you don't have that possibility, just like what Christian said, find somebody, in the city that you're in. If you're a digital nomad, go to a co-working space. Those, that's the reason they exist. It's a bunch of people who don't know each other, who work together in the same space. Just go to a cafe that has a Wi-Fi connection, or just find a friend, phone them up, and be like, "Hey, let's get together and just have a chat and try to work together."
That will definitely increase the focus. And thanks for some of those insights and examples. Um, if you want to talk about environmental design, which we talked,
Last
last
time,
podcast,
yep,
but more in the terms of like now we're including the social aspect. Hopefully, not too much social media, but the
yep.
social aspect, right? Um, what are some of the focus problems that people find? And I know you have clients as well that might
Mm.
listen. Like, what are they saying that they're not focused? When and how and why?
Uh, there are patterns, yeah. So a lot of it is either related to external life events, whether that's a breakup or getting let go from a job, those sort of things, not getting enough exercise, sleep quality, those definitely affect focus. But I think for the most part, people who are employed, are in a healthy relationship, um, a lot of people are having problems focusing, especially when they're, alone at home. And it's not so much a problem in the beginning of the day, but tends to be more so in the latter part of the day. And that's because when we multitask, we actually use up a lot of cognitive resources to actually try to focus on multiple things simultaneously. And it's become easier than ever to actually multitask in 2026, when you can have like 1,000 tabs open on your device, and you have your phone next to you, and you have this iPad here, and you have a monitor, and you have like your friends calling you, and you have your kid screaming in the other room, 1,000 distractions, right? which our primitive hardware is not accustomed to, right? The caveman brain is not used to having this many distractions. So it makes 100% sense that by 3, 4 p.m., you just can't focus anymore. You're just clocked out. And what I say essentially is try to eliminate the distractions rather than focusing on strategies to improve the focus, right? I have a sign on my door to my office that says no phone area, or no phone zone, I called it. And I remind myself, I put up visual reminders to say, hey, no phone in here. I really think about what is it that I want to do in the next hour. I bought one of these little timers here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Right. I have this on my desk in front of me. This thing is amazing. And just seeing I say to myself, for the next 60 minutes, I'm only going to do this one thing. Because my brain, I acknowledge, it's not that efficient. I can outsource stuff with AI. I can ask AI to do stuff for me in the background while I try to work on other stuff. But I know that, hey, my brain is still very good at monotasking, not multitasking. So I just try to do things slowly and efficiently. The AI delegation stuff I haven't gotten that good at yet, but slow and efficient is where I'm comfortable and I know what I'm doing. So I try to close the tabs, take away the phone, eliminate any distractions, put my phone on silent in the other room, do anything, and block out my calendar to make sure that I don't have any distractions. That's the best way that you're going to enhance focus by environmental design.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that and a little bit of recap of what we talked about in more detail last week. And now, we can think about this like another step where your environment is also co-regulating, right? So you're telling to your future self by putting a sign, no fun zone, that when I'm going to go there, that sign is going to help me co-regulate the state that I want to be in, right? And, we can talk about focus strategy or work or business strategy, but often, and yeah, quote me on this, state is more important than strategy. So when we mean state, we're not talking about the United States.
Yeah.
So when your state is calm, focus, that's more important than the strategy around how are you going to find your focus, how are you going to achieve your goal, right? I did want to go to another scientific study, and by the way, we are live, so if any audience member are still live after the small interruptions, please feel free to ask in the chat. My other study that I was looking at, if we can put that.
Do you mind if I quickly interrupt with a point? So you were talking about the state, and I think that, we've talked about this before, physiology impacts your state. So if you're feeling unmotivated, a quick hack that you can do is just get up, put on your favorite music, start dancing.
Let's do that right now.
But I actually have a trampoline, a little mini trampoline behind me, and I sometimes just get and jump on this little trampoline when I'm feeling like the music. There we go. Yeah. But yeah, you can just jump.
Q&A break, we'll do music break. That's good.
And a dance break, dance off at the end. Exactly. I invite you, Zuckerberg, get on the stream with us and dance. Show us those moves. But yeah, just get up, go for a run, go for a walk, jump on the trampoline if you have one. Do something, but when you move the body, it changes your state, that changes your emotions. So that's just a quick fix, but it's also not rocket science. Anybody can do this. Anybody who's watching can do this.
It's not complicated, but it's not habitual, and that's the difficulty, right? And
it's the implementation. I think most people know this, right? Most people are like, yeah, but it's the actual implementation that's the difficult part, because so many people are just locked into their current habits. So if you have trouble with the implementation, then there's a lot of things you can do. But like one of the things, perhaps reach out to one of the people working at Awe. We focus on taking knowledge into actual behavior change. Join one of our free digital resets. Reach out to a coach, right? But there's a lot of resources you can go out to get out there in the environment to actually implement the knowledge that you already have in your mind, right? It's just there's a gap between having the knowledge and actually taking the action. That's the most difficult part for most people.
Agreed. And we had discussions with many psychologists, neuroscientists, psychiatrists that kind of say the same. Most people have the knowledge, they don't know how to implement it, right? And that's why we're trying to create and give tools. One of the last research I did was talking about, moving and movement, and uh, giving some prompts to kind of do some, postures and
Hmm.
feel good, right? So there's the mind and the body both working at the same time, and that's more efficient.
Oh yeah.
And I also studied the psychology and education of embodiment, so like being in the body, in the world, in the moment.
Mm.
So there's a lot of things that we can do and help. And yeah, please ask questions if you want, here or later. And let me go to the second study,
Mhm.
look into, which is co-regulation in collaborative learning. Right. So we talked about work, and now a little bit more about learning. Hopefully, most people are still learning at work. That it's not so boring that they're not learning something, or teaching something every day. And I can also conceptualize teaching as facilitating learning, right? So it's not so much that you teach, but you're helping someone or many people learn. And so, achievement goal theory is a theory. This is a journal, International Journal of Educational Research, 2020, so a little bit more recent, by Lim and Lim. So Korean team, and the paper is called Co-Regulation in Collaborative Learning, Grounded in Achievement Goal Theory. So just in terms of highlights, uh, they looked at performance and seeing if we have a goal together, can we look at what the motivation factor affects, and does the goal affect mastery, right? So the study showed that learners' mastery goal should be considered when designing collaborative learning, right? So that's kind of the key finding. Um, we also saw that performance goal orientation did not significantly predict co-regulation. So it's not just about the goal and the performance. Um, it's also about the learner's mastery and the motivation. Right? So those are the key findings. And going a little bit further in the research, the next finding was the relationship between the three achievement goals orientation. One was mastery, one is performance approach, and the other one is, which many people that we know have, including sometimes ourselves, performance avoidance. Right? I
Mm.
really want, like I'm there. I want to perform approach, or yeah, actually, in my mind I do, but not really, right? And then two individual level co-regulation factors. One was self-regulation in collaborative learning, and the other was other regulation. So the result demonstrated that the mastery goal is the most important, right? So out of the three, uh, mastery is the most important, and that we can talk about craft and craftsmanship. That's something I'm working on developing my next happiness model, the 13 C's. Craftsmanship is one of them, and mastery is a close synonym. um, I think it's
One of the many books that Christian
Robert Greene talks about
Robert Greene. Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
very
yeah.
famous one.
So mastery to me, means that you are becoming an expert and that you're good at the subject that you're doing, and you're crafting something. So to talk about learning and co-regulation, so just something to think about is how good are you at what you're doing and how motivated are you. So craftsmanship and mastery also involves motivation, right? You need to be motivated to get to the level of the, and we won't say some, probably everyone have seen some YouTube video talk about 10,000 hours and how
Yeah, yeah.
that's not at all what it's about. It's more about how can you learn, how can you regulate, co-regulate, self-regulate, and co-learn. So those are my main findings. What else do you have to share?
So,
Or
so mastery.
this?
So,
Yeah,
just a quick question. Mastery was the most influential of
yeah,
the
that's your
factors,
question.
and meaning that becoming a master of his craft was basically the strongest potential factor that would influence somebody's ability to achieve and get the task done.
co-learn and achieve.
Co-learn and achieve. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Makes a lot of sense. I think people are very proud of mastering a craft, and that adds just to their motivation. So this study, yeah, confirms a lot of pre-existing beliefs that I had already. So yeah, very interesting.
And helping
Um,
others learn also helps you master to a different level, because the way that you learn is different than someone else is learning, right? So when you're able
100%.
to not just learn for yourself but help other people learn, then you increase your
Yeah.
understanding and complexity of that subject, right?
Yeah. I always said that to myself in college. Like, if I was preparing for an exam, one of the best ways to actually learn was to teach what I had learned to other people. And that
Mhm.
really solidified it for me. And when they were asking questions and I was answering the questions, like that was probably the best, like the peak knowledge acquisition channel for me in terms of making sure that I had summarized all the facts um, to prepare for the exam. So we talked about a number of things, including digital co-regulation, and um, there's also the opposite of that, which is the energy drain, right? So how one distracted or frenetic person can derail a group's productivity, right? We touched on that briefly. Having one person in the group who's perhaps on their device, not doing the work in the library, talking on the phone, that can also spread, like a pathogen to other people. That's why surrounding yourself with really productive, high achievement oriented people is very good.
Motivated, purposeful, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so perhaps for the listeners, here's a little challenge that you guys can take with you this week. Pick one meeting or interaction this week where you focus exclusively on maintaining your own calm to see how it shifts the other person, just with curiosity. Just see what happens in the other person, if you were to exclusively just maintain your own calm and see how it shifts the other person, right? This can be also a test if you have a tense situation with a colleague or somebody else. See how remaining calm in that situation can help influence the other person as well.
Very good challenge. I like it, Mark. And just to give another lens of what we're talking about in co-regulation, right? We can think about co-regulation as creating safety, right? So in terms of our neuroscience and biology, we are dysregulated when we feel normally unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're tensed up, we're acting not in our best interest sometimes, or that of others. Um, so to co-regulate better, you mentioned calm, and we're developing and promoting calm tech and calm human beings. And calm doesn't mean that you don't do anything; it's just you do it with calm. Right? And the other thing is when you're able to create and, I guess, give the impression or the ability to feel and to experience safety. So that means non-judgment, for instance, right? You can say something to me, and you know that I will not judge you.
Mm.
Therefore, that creates that safety, that
Right.
co-regulation, that right. And yeah, there's other ways to think about it, but just think about safety, which is also part of Dr. Bonnie Lee's CSW model, which is
Mm-hmm.
connection, safety, and worth, right? So safety is a good component in psychology, in relationship, as well as in co-regulation and in neuroscience health.
Yeah, safety is an important one. I was just speaking to a client today about how the need to feel safe was impacting her approach to relationships. Specifically, she had built up a really masculine side over her entire life as a form of protection, right? Because if she's constantly feeling in danger, if she's not providing for herself, then then nobody will come to save her. And it's constantly, if your nervous system constantly needs to feel safe in order for you to achieve certain things. So just by meditating, practicing that sense of calm, you are lowering the barriers and you're ensuring a greater sense of safety for yourself.
Well, we incorporate breath work in our digital resets. So if
Hmm.
you help to like specifically train. We have the resets, which are audio. We also have a real coach,
Mhm.
Mark, myself, and the other Chris, to help you. And actually, next week, we're announcing that we should be launching an AI that helps you co-regulate, meditate, uh,
Mm.
breath work, which is called Medi. So
Medi,
yeah, look for
not
that.
Lumi. What's the difference between Lumi and Medi?
Medi is cuter
Medi's cuter.
and younger. Yeah, that's why you're
Mm.
gonna like. No, seriously, Medi it comes from medical because it's evidence based, but also meditation. And it's not just meditation; it's an AI that's helping you, um, use all the tools that are available to guide you with guided audios, and also to do yourself to find more peace, more
Mhm.
self regulation, with co-regulating with an AI, which we can use tech for good, and that's one of the ways that we want to create tech that is meaningful and help people.
Very cool. Looking forward to the launch of Medi. And you said next week is when it's going to launch?
March 1st, yeah,
Mm. Where can people find that?
on our website at odddigitalwellness.com.
Alldigitalwellness.com. You can check out Lumi and Medi, both on the website, both available for anybody on there. Also, if you're a parent watching, and you did not know, have a disruptive child, difficulty getting the child off their smartphone, you can fill out an application to get exclusive access to our All Smarter phone, which is also available on the website. There are a limited number of phones available. We do offer these in cohorts. So apply on our website to get a chance to try out the All Smarter phone, which has been medically approved and tested for the treatment of phone addiction in children.
Thanks, Mark. That's awedigitalwellness.com. And to
Mhm.
get back to our topic, which we've been looking at different angles, just imagine how focused or able to work or motivated would you be if you're afraid and not feel safe?
I wouldn't be able to focus. Well,
Mhm.
some people use crisis to motivate themselves.
Yeah.
But I think truly afraid, truly, if the nervous system was feeling constantly under threat, I think that's what makes it hard for a lot of people to even focus. There is a theory that says that people with ADHD, they do feel for some reason their nervous system is attuned to threats more so than the average person, and that's why their attention is so distributed, because they constantly feel like they're under threat. The nervous system does it at least, and that's what makes it so difficult to concentrate in the first place.
Yeah, and as we talked about Medi, Lumi is already available. So Lumi uses some things to co-regulate as well. Uh,
Mhm.
Not as versed in breathwork, and we don't want to create one AI that's good for everything. We have a few different AIs that are coming. Medi is our second one. Lumi is better for habits and happiness. Yet it can help you in different way. Have more focus. That's habitual. Have more safety, and also looking at what are the psychological things that can help you feel more safe, right? So Lumi is based in CBT in
Mhm.
psychology, also in ACT and CCT and DBT. So that's a lot of acronym, but that's not important. Just
Mhm.
check Lumi. It's not a human being, but it's a nice coach that can, and you can ask Lumi those questions. Actually, maybe we should have Lumi back on the show at some point and ask Lumi some questions.
We'll
Um,
interview Lumi next time.
yeah, great. So let's not rush to solutions. When we feel threat, we normally rush to like we need to do something, right? So
Mm.
relax your pace, relax your thoughts, slow them down a little bit. Don't rush.
Mhm.
You'll have more focus and better judgment. Although not
100%.
not judgment for others or yourself, just judgment for a decision.
Yeah,
Uh,
better decision awareness
decision.
and judgment. Yeah.
The rest it should be non-judgment as much as possible. Any other thoughts or findings you want to share, Mark?
No other findings. I think for the most part, we gave some helpful tips to people if they're struggling with focus and they feel isolated, some easy practical tips to increase chances of co-regulating is, go to focus.me, join a digital reset that's on Oz website, or find a friend in your area, call them up and ask them to come over and work with you a little bit, or go to a co-working space. There's a lot of solutions, right? Again, it's just the implementation that people struggle with.
Thanks, Mark. And as we're always trying to raise awareness at AWE, as well as wellness and enjoyment, of course, the acronym, just wanted to help the audience if they're not sure what and how they're having focus issues, to kind of just think about it. If this podcast made you think, maybe take a few minutes to think about where in my life am I having less focus, or feel less safe, or being less regulated. Where is it? And then we can find ways and solutions to improve it, right? So be aware of when and how, and then we can help find solutions specific to that, right?
100%. And I think, if anyone has questions for the podcast, they can throw it in the chat now about co-regulation. We are live on YouTube. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on X, all major platforms. If you have any questions about co-regulation or any of the other topics that we have discussed today, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Christian, we touched on a lot of topics today. Do you have practical advice that people could implement right now, to help increase their focus, or, based on the ideas of co-regulation that we discussed, what are some practical tips for people?
You mentioned one in the work environment. Let's do a family one, right? So
yeah,
notice in your family when one of your family member gets angry, frustrated, anxious, dysregulated in some way.
Right.
What can you do to help that co-regulation happen? And a lot of it is nonverbal as well, right? Especially family is normally close. You get to see them at some point. You get to be in the same room. Hopefully not with a phone, as we talked about. What can you do to help them feel safe, feel heard? And we talked about active listening, and see them slowly, or sometimes it takes time, but eventually be regulated and co-regulated, right? So that would be my practical advice for others, and for yourself. Find tools, people, but also technology. Not scrolling on Instagram or any Meta products that we talked about. Not to bash a company, but it's just the headlines. Any companies have content that's addictive and that are not helping you co-regulate. So do a kind of audit of yourself on what can I do, what practices, can I do a self-meditation or a reset? Can I do a walk? Can I, okay, I'm walking my dog. Is that enough? What else do I need? Okay, I'm having a coffee in the morning. Is that good? Is that enough? Okay, what else do I need, right? So just increasing the awareness. And, talking about the 3 A's, I will leave the audience with, in co-regulation, notice the pace, right? The pace of your walk, the pace of your talk, the pace of your thoughts as well, and the pace of your action, right? They should be good, not too much, not too accelerated, just at the right pace. And pace can be high or low, but just notice what it is. And then wellness, what would you conceptualize regulation as wellness, right? So mental focus, but also your body, right? Once you're regulated, it's a mind-body experience, and wellness comes from regulation and co-regulating. So when you're co-regulating with others, everyone's wellness is increased. And the last one, enjoyment, is once you're aware and you're well, then enjoy, right? So have fun, dance. We're gonna have Lumi in the next one, and maybe Mehdi. Then we're gonna do some dance parties in the next podcast. If you want that, let us know. That's it for me.
Speaking of the next podcast, who do we have some guests planned for our next podcast, and do we not?
we have two guests next week.
Two guests.
So we'll have special podcasts next week.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Zen from British Columbia. Great person. Looking forward to talk to him about sustainable AI. He's on TEDx. He's also won some award of I think top 20 Canadian immigrants. Very successful. Very good conversation that we'll have next week. Sustainable AI and digital health with Zen. And the second guest is Lefteris from the UK, currently in Spain. I just had another podcast with him on his podcast, and he's coming to meet Mark and me. And we can ask him a lot of questions about education, art, AI, and how AI comes from design. So the name is AI Comes for Design. And Lefteris is also amazing, has a lot of interesting lore and information about art, design, AI, digital health, education. So those are the upcoming guests for next week. Tune in, and please share if you're enjoying this. Please share, please like and comment. That's a small thing that you can do to help this podcast continue, and we really appreciate all our listeners.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in again to another episode of the AWE Digital Wellness Podcast. We look forward to seeing you again next week, next Monday, or is it Tuesday that we have the next podcast?
We have one Monday.
Next Monday. So you guys only have to wait 2 days. Only 2 days.
February 23rd with Zen Tarani, sustainability in AI and digital health strategy. See you guys then. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for co-hosting and co-regulating this podcast with me.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
This is the good Mark, not the other Mark that we talked about.
The good one.